All right, SureDash is officially out. They've released release candidate, I think it's 3. If you do not have access to those files yet automatically because you're watching this video pretty early, it's because they're not pushing the update out right away due to some final little tweaks they want to make sure that they make before they push it live because you can't go back. So you're going to need to download the files from your SureDash account and upload them manually, which is what I'm going to walk through right now with you because I'm going to do this from the perspective of somebody who has had SureDash installed since, let's just say, December of 2024. Maybe you've made some changes and some tweaks. Maybe you've used the plugin in a development or outside of a development environment, in a production environment, and you're wanting to upgrade. I'm going to walk through installing the plugins, and I'm going to walk through the migrator that you're going to need to run if you have already installed SureDash. And then we'll go from there. We'll kind of do a new setup. We're going to do a new walkthrough of the plugin entirely because a lot has changed since my initial videos. A lot of the changes I feel like I had a hand in because a lot of them were kind of rough around the edges, and now we have a whole new interface that I actually think looks really, really good. So let's not waste any time. Let's dive right in and take a look at the installation process. And first, I'm going to install the base or the core version, version 1.0, and then I'm going to hit replace with uploaded. And then I'm going to repeat this process for the business version or the premium paid version of the plugin, because there are multiple plugins that you'll need to install if you've purchased SureDash. The third plugin that I'm going to upload is the migrator. The migrator is something that you just run once. You only need this if you've previously installed and used SureDash at any capacity. This is actually my site that I've been using with various alpha versions of SureDash. So fingers crossed we don't run into any major issues. Let's go ahead and activate our migration plugin. And from here, we're going to walk through the migration process. So we're going to go over to SureDash, and you're going to see this that says Alpha to RC Release Candidate. We're going to click on that, and it says migration status is not done. So there's a bunch of different stuff that got installed in the database and in WordPress in the older version of SureDash, and we need to fix that. So we need to sequentially hit these buttons. We're going to migrate course lessons and content types. And honestly, even if you just installed SureDash at all on your website, and you didn't even really build anything, you're still set up in the old method. This is technically why I was telling you, just don't even use the plugin on anything but a test environment, because it's going to do things differently from how they're going to do it when it's live. But thankfully, we were able to convince them here to build out this migration plugin. And you can see while I was talking and hitting those migrate buttons, everything got migrated. You can see I only had like 9 little test posts and things like that. Nothing particularly fancy. But let's go ahead and go back to our plugins now, and let's delete the migration plugin. We don't actually need it. So let's go down to SureDash, find our migrator, deactivate, and then we're going to hit delete on that. All right, that's it. The migration is complete. That's all there is to it. Nothing scary. Now let's go ahead and go into SureDash for the first time. I'm going to go to settings, and we're going to walk through the differences in SureDash. And they're going to be pretty apparent if you've watched any of my other videos. So they have a new onboarding experience now. So let's walk through this. Let's get started. Let's set up our community. I'm going to call this the Convology demo community. We'll make our community private. And by the way, I'm going to make a ton of content on SureDash, different settings I'm going to tweak. I'm going to create different use cases for SureDash and different ways you can use it in your business. But this is just going to be a general walkthrough. Feeds for your community. This is like an aggregator feed. It's right in the front. Kind of like if you have a circle community, it's the same thing as a feed or like a Facebook feed. Because I have other plugins installed, they're letting you know that you can monetize with SureCart, do flawless workflows with AutoKit, which I already have. I actually have Sure members installed, so I'm not sure why it says get now. I have all these things installed on my site, so we'll just hit next, which is fine. Oh, it's installing AutoKit. That's interesting. I'll remove that. I don't really want it on my website. I use the web portal for it, so I'll delete that later. But let's go ahead and update some information here. This step right here is just more about signing up for their stuff. I'm not going to opt into that right now. Hit skip on that. Now we are on the brand new SureDash dashboard. This didn't previously exist. This is more of a unified experience. It matches the new Sure members, SureCart interfaces. It actually looks really cool. So you can see a recent activity down here, my old post from 4 months ago, which puts that like in like January. And then some more stuff like, hey, activate these plugins if you don't have them, which you can see I do now. Okay, let's now go in to actual settings, which is where we were headed in the beginning. So here inside of our settings, you can see this has changed. It looks much nicer, and they've streamlined and moved a few things around. So first off, you can change your community and your font if it doesn't match. I'm going to leave that alone. I think it looks fine for me. I am going to hide SureDash branding. So by default, everything here looks good. Now under community, you can set your portal as your homepage. This setting actually in the original version of SureDash did not exist. But I think that I'm gonna change this. I'll leave it as it is on this website, but I think if this were there's 2 ways I would do this. If I did SureDash on a subdomain, which honestly I think is my recommended setup, would be to put SureDash on a subdomain, just because of how putting a community slash course platform slash dynamic thing on your main website, even with really, really good hosting, anything like that that you add to your website is going to slow your website down. There's just no way around it. That's what WordPress does. The more you put on it, the slower it gets. Even if it's super fast, like SureDash is, and it's built separate from, the stuff that slows down your website in a big way, like other platforms use, it's still going to slow your website down, just how it works. So would I have the portal as my homepage? Yeah, probably if this were like a subdomain, if it were the primary site. If you're putting this on a website that has other things, you would definitely want to turn that off and you can adjust the settings later. I'm going to leave it on now though. I may go through that in other videos. For the lightboxing, that's fine, and feeds, that's totally fine. We'll just keep everything like it was there. For login and registration, this is one of the areas where I feel like SureDash themselves needs to step in and make some updates. Right now, they're basically giving you Google, Facebook, and reCAPTCHA stuff. Like, I don't understand why they're doing the SSO stuff with Google and Facebook. I want them to have a login form dedicated to SureDash. Like it should have a curated, beautiful login experience dedicated to SureDash without any of this. So I never do this kind of stuff. I personally never like to log in with Google or Facebook. I know some people do, it's just not me. Text labels, I guess you could use this for translation, or if you wanted to change it and repurpose your community. I'm not going to do any of that. I will in the future, maybe if I want to tweak these things, but I'm not going to right now. Now, portal pages, this is where you would make updates if you needed to make big changes to how the portal is structurally laid out. So by default, they create some pages for you. And by default, if it's the homepage of your website, this is where it would basically insert itself. And you can make changes to it, in which case you'd come here and change the homepage of all these different sections. I think by default, I'm going to leave those alone and only tweak them if I need to. And that would also be my recommendation for you. If you want to use Giphy in your comments, you can put in your API key there. Under performance, 5 feeds per page, that's fine. Bypass WordPress interactions, this improves performance. This is some of the stuff they worked on. I'm going to leave that alone as well. Now, for our profile menu, where I added my SureCart customer dashboard and put in my account, I'm going to leave that there. I can see they never fixed this bug where you can't click and highlight the content very well. It just drags the screen. Gosh, that bug's been in there since like December or November of last year. You have to like click in and then move your mouse or whatever, or move your keyboard around. Kind of goofy, but that's how you would change or add links here. I'm going to leave that there because I think that's exactly what I would have on mine. So leave that alone. The user roles, I'm going to leave that alone. Email. This is the email that goes out if someone doesn't have their password. You're going to want to make sure that you've set yourself up with an SMTP plugin. I have another video on my channel all about using SureMail, which is what I would recommend. But you can customize this if you want to. And then the last one is licensing. I already have my license enabled, so you would just enter your license there if you haven't already. And that's it for the settings. Now, a lot of the customization, though, has been moved out of the settings area. If you recall in my last video, there were some sections in here where you could edit colors and things. Those have all moved to the customized portal window here in the main navigation. So I'm going to go there, and we're going to look at all the different customization options that we have for our actual portal. So what they're doing here by default is they're loading a version for you to be able to edit different colored components. And those are going to be very similar to how you would edit in like Spectra or the block editor. So on the right-hand side where you can see template part and block, if I select a piece, for example, I'll select this navigation here on the left. And if I open up my little window view or my document overview or list view, you can see here the different components, which makes it much easier to click on them and make customizations. So for example, the portal navigation is the template part that I've selected. Now, if I select block here on the right-hand side, you can see that I can adjust spacing. So group title, I could make this, if I made it 20, it's going to increase the space between the title and the first space underneath the group. Put that back to 6, which I think looked good. You can see 2 space groups gap. You can adjust the spacing, all that you want to do there. Now, under the style section here, this is where we can start to insert different colors. So if I wanted to change the text of my spaces, I would do that here. By default, this is going to pull in from, like if you're using Astra, which I am on this site, it's going to be able to pull in your theme colors. And I think this is a default WordPress thing. It's tied into like the traditional theme customizer. I think by default, if you have theme colors, they should be pulled in here. If not, you can always customize them. But let's say I wanted to customize the colors of my spaces. I would probably do something like that. And then if I wanted to select individual space groups, like the space group title, I would find the group text here, and I would make that the different color. Now the active space, which is space 1, you can see it's this purple color. I'm going to change the active space to blue, and I would probably change my other title here to something else. Matches my brand. Easy to see. And then I would probably leave the rest alone on mine, come back and play with it later. But you can get a feel for how this works. You can select different components. Bear in mind, some of this interface will overlap because it doesn't necessarily all work if you have everything open. But if I go back to the list view and I find let's go back to there we go, sidebar, and I click portal identity, you can see there's nothing there, but I can upload a logo really easily. So I'm going to insert a logo at the top of my sidebar there under the logo identity and makes that fit nicely. So that looks good to me. Now you can see there are some minor issues. This navigation has been deleted or is unavailable. You can just click create new menu. And what that's going to do, it's going to pull in a menu from WordPress. If you don't want a navigation there, you can customize this using the block editor. You can do various things, by the way. So like you can see here, this uses the default WordPress blocks, which I actually hate, but I guess there's no way around some of this. It's built to be compatible. For example, if you don't have Spectra, then why would they put Spectra blocks here? But they're using the default WordPress rows. So if I wanted to insert something else in here, let's say maybe like a random icon, I'll just drag a random icon into this row, drop it in, and now you can see a random icon appeared right here. So I could create like a user icon, like I'll call this user. Let's see what we've got here. Or account, good old icon libraries. They're just terrible. Can never find anything. But I'm just gonna put one in here. Let's pretend this is our account icon. And you could link that so that when clicked, it would go to the user's account page. Something like that. I'm just going to delete it though because it's not needed. Let's go back to our navigation now just real quick and just show you how easy it is to build something. So you can put like a custom link in here, and that custom link could go to my account, which is going to open up the account page for SureCart. I guess I should have changed that and not made that the text, but made the text be like my account, something like that. And now I have an account link that when clicked will open up the account page. I'll let you go ahead and play around with this however much you like by selecting different pieces, changing customization options. You can change the welcome message. You can, if you click down here in the bottom left, you can change the profile. You can do a lot more customization than you could when this first came out. And that's because this is now customizing with the block editor versus it was just pretty much rigid and very little tweaking in the original deployment of the alpha version. But I'll let you play around with that. I'm just going to go ahead and hit save and lock all those changes in. And let's pretend that we love our setup there on the customization. Great, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click my logo in the upper left-hand corner. To go back, I'm going to now go to our dashboard. And now I don't know if you remember, there used to be a section under here to see the portal itself. That's really what customized portal is. But these two spaces here, well, no pun there. There's spaces and posts. So these two sections here, spaces and posts. Let's go to spaces. And this is where we are going to customize in a whole new interface, the different spaces that are appearing on the left-hand side in that navigation for our dashboard. So these are the ones that I had in here that I had made previously in a previous video. So I put like a start here space and announcements, a resource library and events. I put a tech help discussion space, some free product workshop funnels, some courses, various things that I played around with. And I want to show you how all of this works now. So we can add a new space here, and this is a similar but updated looking interface. We can give our space a title. So maybe this one's going to be called accelerators or something like that. And then we can choose what type of space this is going to be. A space is a general term, and then there's a type of space. So it can be a course space, a discussion space. It can be, as you see here coming soon, an event space, a booking space, video playlist space. Like all these things are coming soon, but those are going to be the different types of spaces. Let's pretend I wanted this to be a course space. Okay, so we'll call this our accelerators. I'd probably change this to be like workshops or something like that. Click create space. And now instead of that weird modal that used to come up, I'm put right into this new interface where I can start building out my course in, I think, a very clean, actually, I really, really like this interface. I think this is a very clean interface, very intuitive, very easy to use. So we can update our course details here, which does open up a modal. And this is going to give us a default editing kind of block editor experience. So I could use Spectra blocks or things like that. I'm just going to put a placeholder and say this is our workshop description. And then I'll publish this description. I could have designed it more if I wanted to. I could have put an image in there. And I think actually, for the sake of just seeing how this works, let's put a Spectra image in here and let's do a media library. And let's just put in, for fun, the SureDash logo. So that's the course detail section. And you can upload a thumbnail. It recommends 255 by 140. We'll go ahead and add one. I'm going to insert an image that doesn't meet those image recommendations just to see what happens. And then a banner image, it recommends 1920 by 384. Let's just upload something that also doesn't meet those image standards. Here, let's put this one in there. So I've uploaded 2 different images that don't meet the recommendations so as we can see what happens together. So let's hit publish on this now. And I also want to show you the editing experience here. So we have our untitled section. Think of this like a module. We can rename this. We also have this issue here. I don't know if the SureDash people see this. Like I can't click and select any text. I have to click in and delete. We'll call this module 1, getting started. I wish I could hit enter and have that lock in. That's another user interface thing. I know they're making accessibility changes. Maybe that's going to be it. But now let's add a lesson here. And as soon as I click to add a lesson, it's going to bring up the block editor again. So a lot of this is built in the default WordPress block editor, which what you love it or hate it, that's what it is. I have been converted to the block editor way using Spectra. So I've gotten used to it. I actually like it. So this would be lesson 1. I'm going to put this as a placeholder. Let's go ahead and put in an image just to see like the effect of what happens. I want to see what this looks like when we get to see it on the front end. Here, I'll choose this image, this in here, and I'll drop in some heading text. Let's see if the formatting works well. We'll do heading 1. Actually, instead of that, I'm going to put in a video. Let's drop in a video player. Let's actually look for our Presto player. I know there were some bugs with Presto player in the past. I hope that they've solved a lot of those problems, but let's see. All right, so I've put a random workshop of mine in here. It's not even been approved to play on this domain. That's fine. And I'll put lesson heading 1, and then I'll put in a paragraph. I just want to see what this looks like. And I want to put in a bunch of stuff to see what that looks like. So we'll go ahead and hit save on that, lock that in to get our lesson locked in. All right, let's just go ahead and take a look at our dashboard. The same process works for all these different sections. You can add a new space, you can add a new section, you can do whatever you want here. You can see if I scroll all the way down to the bottom of mine, there's room to add or an option to add a new group. And then you can take that group and you can drag and drop it anywhere you want to inside of your list. So I'm going to say I'm happy with all of my space groups and my spaces. We're going to go with that. Last section I want to look at is the post section. And you can see here they've got a performance tip. If you want your posts and discussion space to load quicker on the front end, use WordPress default blocks and go easy on heavy custom ones. I hope that that's not really talking much about Spectra. I'm hoping that that's more for some of the bigger, heavier block editors, or maybe some of the heavier theme builder type tools, like maybe Elementor or Bricks or something. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, because I would love to be able to customize my discussion spaces with Spectra blocks, which is made by relatively the same parent company, so to speak, or related company, so to speak. So I think that that hopefully doesn't apply to Spectra, but we'll see. So let's go ahead and go to the front end and take a look at what our community looks like so we can wrap up this intro walkthrough to SureDash. So let's go ahead now and go to our homepage. Okay, here is our homepage. Our feed here, let's click on feed. It'll load differently from our homepage itself. I should probably go back in and edit that homepage. I'll show you that before we wrap up the video. But if I do click on feeds, you can see that my old content, gosh, there's stuff from December, January, etc. in here. That's the feed. You'll notice the new comments here, which is one of the things I wanted to show you, something that I was very particular about, the way that the comments looked. You can see here now the comments are inline. I can hit reply. I can hit test. If I hit the little send button there, locks in the reply. I can click on the 5 comments to see all of the comments in here. This is just like the most latest one. I'm a little picky about this. For example, there's this comment here in my reply. If I go to the 5 comment, all the older comments aren't there. There's just the most recent one with my reply in it. I don't love necessarily that it's just the latest comment. I think I prefer no comment here, but clicking in here would show comments. I don't know. It's not perfect. I think I'm particular to how it's done in Circle. Let's just say it's a lot better than it was. I'll leave it at that. But that's the latest feed section, or the feed aggregator. You can go to your different spaces. So inside of our member hub, I have a start here page, which I haven't even built. You can fully customize this using the block editor, however you'd like. I have our event space, which again is not customized. That's literally just like a placeholder space. This is where I would put something like probably like a late point calendar for people to RSVP to events. Hopefully SureDash has a built-in event system coming soon. You saw that there was an event space coming soon. Here's a discussion space where you can see all the discussions that are going on. This would be very similar to something like Circle. And then under that workshop space that we just created here, you can see a couple of things. The first being the image that we uploaded definitely was not in the image specs that they gave, so it just stretched it to make it fit. Obviously, I would recommend following their image recommendations if you want that perfectly fitted image. Here's our workshop with our exactly as we put it in, our SureDash logo with our text. Here is lesson 1. If I click into lesson 1, we have transformed now into the course interface, which I think is very nice. I've always been a fan of this layout. So we have the image of our course here on the left for our lesson. Looks good. We have our lesson 1 that we created. Here's our video player. This is Presto Player with a random Vimeo video that can't play on this test domain. Here's our lesson header and the text that we put in. These were spectra blocks. It all seemed to load just fine. And we'll put this comment on lesson 1 in test course. Hit enter or hit looking at that, lock that in. That looks good to me. We can hit complete and continue, or what's this option here? We can click this little bookmark and then we can click this complete and continue. Lesson marked as complete. Now let's go back to our workshops. So this has really started to come together. I'm very pleased. If we go down to the bottom left here and I click on my little profile, you can see that there's the links that were by default there, like profile, bookmarks in my account. If I click on profile, here's the profile page that it gives. If I click on my account, this should open up the SureCart. It did. This opens up the SureCart, which we are going to go into much more depth in another video here soon. I'll hit back to home, which I've also customized to take me to the portal, and it does. And I actually have a whole other video about that, I think, on my channel already. The last little thing before we go, this Start Here page that I created, the home page for the portal. Let's look at customizing that really quickly. If you hover over, the admin bar, by the way, is visible now, which it wasn't before. If we go to our admin bar here and you hover over the SureDash icon, you can edit the space. It's editing our space that we were just in. You can use the space editor or the WordPress post page editor, which is kind of nice. And this is where if you're editing individual spaces, you can get some different space settings. So let's click edit here. And this is going to bring up the space editor, but you can build a fully custom welcome splash page, build it however you want. All right, so that's going to wrap up the initial reintroduction to the 1.0 release of SureDash, release candidate 3. If there are any major updates to the general layout, just feel how things work, I'll record more information. I think from this point forward, I'm going to be recording videos on specific use cases, how to use various aspects of the platform, examples of ways to implement things as if you were running a business on this platform using SureCart, SureMembers, and the rest of the SureCrafted ecosystem. If you have any requests, please let me know. You can leave those down below in the YouTube comments, and I'll see you in the next video.